Avenue, and then we'll take it higher.
The Game Sports Show is pleased to shout out a partner, additional home, and sponsor to Northern Superior Brewing Company, located on 50 Pym Street in Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario. Northern Superior Brewing Company having a strong presence locally with many beers to offer. With much involvement in the community of Sault Ste. Marie, Northern has a sport and friendly-like atmosphere within its tap room, and during the summer months, it is a must to visit Pier 55 to enjoy some delicious food, amazing view of the water, and view of the Bush Pulling Museum right on the cusp of the Hub Trail, and of course, all of that down with a delicious brew from Northern Superior. Northern Superior Brewing Company. It's a northern thing.
Booyah, and it's time for the Game Sports Show, the Twin Sault's only local, regional, and national sports show. You're listening to the show on thegamesportshow.com, thegamesportshow.podbean.com, or through the Scott Nason YouTube channel. You may have also been directed here through our social media pages, through at the Game Sports Show SSM on Instagram or at the Game Sports Show on Facebook. Either way, I want to say thank you for joining us here tonight on our January the 17th edition of the Game Sports Show, live from Northern Superior Brewing Company here in Sault Ste. Marie, where you have an opportunity to have great beer all the time, delicious beer, obviously great service as well, great little tap room here that myself, Dane, and Justin are recording on. It's definitely a northern thing here, and it's definitely a northern thing outside. Very chilly, so hopefully you're keeping nice and warm. I want to say thank you to Scott Nason, who's going to be our board operator tonight. I'm going to bring in Justin and Dane in just a few moments here. We're here at Northern Superior Brewing Company for a Thursday edition of the Game Sports Show. We also had a bonus upload edition of the Game Sports Show from Scott Nason here today from Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan, that you can check out on our Podbean page as well. We also have previous editions of the Game Sports Show as well that you can veer down on our Podbean page or through our website. Later on this week, we do have a makeup show for Sports Center Bar and Grill that I'll get to right away here. We had to do a last-minute cancellation from Sports Center Bar and Grill yesterday, as Jamie Antonell and Dustin Gronin were both ill, so it just had myself and Justin, and we felt it would be best for the listeners to have the show rescheduled. So we're going to be hopefully doing the show either Friday or Saturday this week, or even combine it with our Sunday show. So without further ado, let's bring in the fellas here. Justin Hykel, Dane Hanchrow, going the guy first over here in the Maple Leaf sweater, supporting the Maple Leaf game that's on currently as we sit here in the tap room at Northern Superior Brewing Company as Toronto hosts Tampa Bay. Justin, how you doing, sir?
Oh, another day in paradise here. Freezing my butt off this morning.
I know you want to say the other
word. Well, I was trying to think of something funnier to say than ass, but I just couldn't come up with it. Yeah. So there's the A word.
Dane, how are you, sir? Thanks for coming on by here tonight, as always.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Doing pretty well after the Oilers shootout victory last night. Really needed that,
Happy fan for an Oiler fan for once. It was definitely an enjoyable game, a quality hockey game, definitely to watch. Now, a lot of things, happened in the world of sports this week and this past week. Obviously, for your football fans, so once again, I want to say sorry to the listeners for not having a Sports Center show last week. But sickness does happen. Sorry. So let me tell you right now that we will make up that show this week sometime to ensure that we get to our In the Pocket segment. Fellas, here tonight on the Game Sports Show from Northern Superior Brewing Company, we're going to be talking about some local hockey scene, giving the listeners a little updates on the schedule in terms of local hockey scene. But we're also going to be talking about a lot of professional hockey news, as well as, if we have time, we're going to veer in a little bit of baseball news as well, as we do here on our Thursday show. Just remind our listeners that we do talk at the majority of professional hockey and professional sports in terms of hockey, baseball, or the hot topics around those sports. We also include a little bit of sports talk in terms of local hockey here, or local sports in general, on our Thursday edition. But we do talk more local sports on our Icebreakers edition, which will be on Sunday with myself, and also Dane Hanchrow will be there with me, as Brad will be out of town, and potentially even Justin if he does 3 total shows this week. Next week, we will be at the Wicked Sister, myself and Scott Nason, and we'll be at the usual schedule for Sports Center Northern and Icebreakers as well. And as I said at the top of the show, don't hesitate to veer below to listen to some previous editions of the Game Sports Show, the Twin Sault's only local, regional, and national sports show. So just going to jump right into it right now. Talking about the local hockey scene, the Sault Ste. Marie Greyhounds are currently in action in North Bay. They're up 3-0 at the end of the first period over North Bay right now. 1 minute and 6 seconds left to be exact, actually. So most likely they're going to go into the intermission up 3 goals there. They are on the road this weekend, so you might be watching that game currently. They do have 2 other games this weekend. The Sault Ste. Marie Greyhounds will play against the Barrie Colts on Saturday at 7:30 p.m. and then they play Sudbury at 3:05 p.m. in Sudbury. They return home next weekend against Peterborough and Kitchener. Now, that's for the Sault Ste. Greyhounds. You can listen to the Icebreakers edition that myself and Brad had on the 15th. Loads of content there in terms of the Hounds trade deadline and OHL and upcoming games. If you want to get Brad's take on the importance of these games coming up and going down to the playoff stretch, and in terms of this week and going into next week for the Hounds, you can check out that show for the full entire description and details and reaction from the writer of Sault Today, Sportsnet, and also the Game Sports shows, Brad Kuchmila and myself live on location from Icebreakers. Again, Barrie and Sudbury to go this weekend. They're in Barrie Saturday and in Sudbury on Sunday. Now, the Lake Superior State University Lakers, after a good weekend last weekend still against Alabama Huntsville, winning, and then they tied, but they ultimately lost in a shootout, but they still get the tie. Alabama gets the extra point. You know how the NCAA rules go. The LSSU Lakers do play in Minnesota State this weekend, Friday the 18th, which is tomorrow, then Saturday the 19th, a couple days from now at 8:07 in Minnesota. Bemidji State comes to Sault Ste. Marie on the 25th at 7 o'clock and the 26th. So make sure you get your tickets there for both Hounds and LSSU Lakers hockey teams. Now, for the Sault Thunderbirds, going transitioning to the NOJHL, the Sault Thunderbirds are currently at the GFL Memorial Gardens playing against Espanola. They're up 2-1 currently at the start of the second period here, as I currently broadcast here with the Game Sports Show. They play tomorrow, Friday, January the 18th, against Powassan at 7 o'clock, and they conclude this weekend in Espanola on Sunday at 2 o'clock. Then they do play on Tuesday this week against Elliott Lake. So make sure you check out the Sault Thunderbirds schedule there to make sure you are caught up with the top team in the West Division, the NOJHL, going for top spot as they battle with Kirkland for top spot, and the NOJHL Kirkland, who is leading the Eastern Division. Going towards the Sioux Eagles, who's another good team in the Western Division. Remind the listeners that they do play this Friday, January the 18th, in Elliott Lake at 7:30. They play Saturday against Powassan at the Polar Stadium at 7 o'clock. You can check that on Hockey TV, and we'll also have a broadcast here on the Game Sports Show with Scott Nason with that as well. So, fellas, that's the local hockey scene recap there in terms of the OHL, NCAA, and the NOJHL. You can also check out the Sault College Cougars website for updates of games. They don't play for quite some time, to almost February. So, Justin, we got lots to talk about here tonight. We're going to be talking about the Toronto Maple Leafs and our Leafs table discussion. We got lots of news there in terms especially of Jake Gardiner that myself and Brad also touched on the 15th from Icebreakers. We got trade deadline talk, more talks this year. Big trades might happen. No World Cup happening in hockey in 2020. And also, we're going to have our famous multiple choice segment as well before we attempt to conclude with some baseball talk and some more hot topics that we'll bring up sporadically here on the roundtable with myself, Justin, and Dane. So, fellas, we're going to jump right now talking about the NHL. We're going to talk about the Toronto Maple Leafs here in the first part. Usually we do take a break, but we're going to warm up the listeners and get into the NHL discussion right now and talk about Toronto. Justin, I'm going to go to you first. Kasperi Kapanen. Rumors about him potentially be on the move. Dane reported that he checked online today from Hockey Feed. There's rumors and maybes. There's links about him potentially getting traded. TSN had links with Janssen and with Kapanen being on the trade block. It seems like it might be Timothy Lejeune might be on there as well. First round pick and play for Toronto. But the one rumor that came out today was Kasperi Kapanen potentially for Adam Larsson and from the Edmonton Oilers, which is an absolute massive trade if you're an Oiler fan, especially because you did trade Taylor Hall for Adam Larsson. However, Kasperi Kapanen's speed, as Dane did say, might work well with Connor McDavid. So if this is a trade that might happen, I think Toronto would get the better end of this trade in the short term, but might develop more. At the end of the day, Kapanen is potentially on the move. Do you want to see Kasperi Kapanen moved?
Not at all. I think he's a very valuable piece to the roster. Probably one of the better players on the team, at least for the first half of the season so far.
When Nylander wasn't there, who stepped up?
Well, that's exactly it. Kapanen was the guy the first half of the season. He plays both ends of the ice, which can't be said for a lot of the roster.
Yeah.
And he succeeds in pretty well any role the coach like Babcock's put him in so far. Whatever line he's on, he finds a way to score. Wherever no matter who he's with on the ice, he works. He gets the puck to the net. And he gets some good shots, gets some chances, and he's got some bounces go his way so far this year too. Like, I really think he's one of the heart and soul players on the team, and they're stupid to get rid of him.
And he's very fast.
He's a flashy name to come up because he's had success this year. Because you bring up some other names on the team, and what kind of interest are they going to garner from other teams? Like, We got Andreas Janssen. Well, that you put that in the Adam Larson conversation, and it doesn't really have the same, excitement to it. So, and the same thing with Nylander's contract now. Like, Nylander's come back, been a pretty big unsuccess so far this season.
That's putting it lightly.
And, part of me wants to believe in the guy a little bit and hope he needs some time to adjust. But on the other end, you put it all on the table and you demand this kind of money, and if the team pays you, the team holds up their end of the bargain, and you think you'd come back in shape, ready to rock and roll. But obviously this is what happens when you don't show up for training camp in the first half of the season. So, but back to the original thought, I don't think that Kapanen's. I think he's probably on your untouchable list. If I'm Kyle Dubas, I don't move Kapanen. That's period.
I am a fan of Kasperi Kapanen and his speed, but based on him being a free agent next year, Dane, and costing a bit of money, we know where a lot of money has got to go to. Number 34, number 16. Pretty soon, number 31 is going to need a new contract too, and number 44 eventually is going to be getting a nice pay upgrade from $5 million a year, let me tell you. So, you have guys on the roster who are free agents this year. Kasperi Kapanen. You have, who's a restricted free agent, obviously, but you still have to pay him. Jake Gardiner, who's an UFA, and a lot of Leaf fans are wondering if we're going to jump into that topic a bit more, and yes, we are. The guy getting booed in his own arena. Kapanen, you're a GM, Dane. That is a starting point for you to get a number 1 defenseman or a number 2 defenseman or even a number 3 defenseman if Leafs want to go that route. You want to get that good return. And defenseman, you know how the value is for it. Taylor Hall got traded for Adam Larson straight up. That's worked out more for the New Jersey Devils, I feel, than it has the Edmonton Oilers. So the price is high. And sometimes somebody who has that high price is Kapanen. And the reason why it's attractive is because of him being a free agent next year. Toronto might not be able to afford that contract.
Yeah, I think after they signed Nylander, Kapanen kind of became the odd man out. I mean, there's only so much cap space available for next year, and obviously I feel like Gardner's not going to be back in the white and blue, but like that money is not going to go towards signing Kapanen, right? They obviously still have needs on defense. In a perfect world, I'd love to keep Kapanen if I'm the Toronto Maple Leafs, but at the end of the day, he's good trade bait the way he's playing right now. I think if Dubas does trade him, you're definitely going to want a defenseman in return that has term left on his contract. You don't want a rental player. I'm not a fan of trading good position players for a rental guy, especially a guy who's playing so good for them right now. And I mean, who knows? Maybe Nylander, he can sneak up on that second line, get to play with Matthews again. I'm not sure how the lines are working out right now, but maybe that gets Nylander going, a little bit more opportunity there. But if I'm Toronto and you're just going to pick up a rental for defensemen, then I'm thinking like draft picks, prospects that are NHL ready, kind of thing. But it'll be interesting. I think we're in for a treat with this year's trade deadline. And like I said, it only takes one team to get things rolling. And Tampa and Boston are always active at trade deadlines. So I feel like if they make a move, that's just then Toronto's going to make a move, kind of thing. So we'll see how it shakes out. But I think Kapanen's on the move either during the season or at the draft.
Got some players that do have term left. Pietrangelo, Adam Larson has I think a good amount of term left on his contract, a couple years left. So you have Kapanen, who's probably going to get around the 3.5, 4, and I think he'd be more of a bridge deal. Yeah, 100% a bridge deal for sure. I don't think Andreas Johnson would be in the bridge deal. If he is, I don't think he's making more than $2 million. He's going to be a bridge deal on a couple $1 million. So you got Connor Brown too, who will be up. So you got guys that I think could be more that Toronto will probably prefer to trade before Kasperi. But for example, if I'm St. Louis or if I'm Edmonton, I want your first, and Kapanen's almost the first description, but not saying that's for Larson necessarily. But if you want Pietrangelo, you're looking at Kapanen in the first. But again, Adam Larson, I think it's at least exactly. So the value has to be there, and sometimes you have to give it up. So it's either we give up Kapanen, or you give up Rasmus Sandin or Timothy Lejeune. You move your prospects, and I'm actually not a fan of moving prospects. But if you're the Toronto Maple Leafs, you got enough prospects in that realm. Okay, defensively, not really. Okay, like if we need any kind of defenseman, we can almost get. But besides that point, you have prospects that can be afforded to be moved. You're going to have a lower pick this year in the draft. It's worth the trade. I think it's worth the trade to get a defenseman who has term left. So, do the Leafs have to trade for a D-man by the deadline, overall speaking here? That's almost what we've went to. Kasperi Kapanen for Larson or Pietrangelo. Or if we're going to go the realm of Colton Parenko, or if you want to go to that side, I'm trying to think of defense on the top of my head. If you want to go Minnesota, if you want to look at Jared Spurgeon, there's other guys like that as well on the top of my head that are just creeping up and thinking here. Do the Leafs have to make a trade by the deadline? One of the topics will jump in here. Yes, 100% they do. If they want to contend, I've said it on the Icebreaker show previously this week, Tampa Bay has McDonough, Sergachev, Hedman. They have enough defense right now that those three names I'd rather have over Riley, Gardiner, and Zaitsev. Okay? Any day of the week. And I'm forgetting about, I must be forgetting some names at the top of my head right now. Doesn't even matter. Those three names are just almost better than the entire Leafs D-core, in my opinion. Okay? This team is bad defensively. Do they want to win the Cup this year? I really think they do. I really think Toronto wants to be in that conversation. I think in the plan, it was next year or the year after to win it. But you look at it now, their offense is lethal. Hasn't been playing as great as it should the last couple games. However, to win championships, you need defense. And if you want to call Patrick Marleau, spoiler alert, over to get that Stanley Cup, you need D-core to get you there. Pittsburgh beat Nashville, not because of the big names, because they actually had people who play that position. Ian Cole was out there blocking shots. Okay, Dumoulin was out there blocking shots. Simon Dupreez was out there blocking shots. Guys that are actual defensemen got the job done. I'm not saying you have to go in and get Pietrangelo, but you have to get defense that are going to do their job. Zaitsev's contract is horrific, and you're losing Gardiner. You've moved those two pieces by either trade then one leaving. That's almost $9.5 million in space you're freeing up. Was guys coming up, and also with Pietrangelo being available and some free agents that are defensive defensemen, you can make that work, along with signing the big two, Matthews and Marner. 29 should be on the block still. I went to discuss that. Last topic with the Leafs. How important is it for the Leafs to have home ice in the entire first round of the playoffs? On the road, they're 15-5-1. At home, they're 13-10-1. On the road, they were, I believe, at the one point, the first 2 months of the year, the Leafs were the best road team in the National Hockey League. I believe they're still up there tonight as they host, or as they play host to Tampa Bay. They're in Tampa Bay tonight. Do you think it matters? I will say right now, I think it does against Boston. For some reason, that TD Garden, that Boston team is in Toronto's head in the worst fucking way. In the worst way. It doesn't matter. Honestly, Boston's better built for the playoffs than Toronto is. Toronto's better offensively, I think. Boston's better defensively. I think they're fairly equal in goal. Okay, fairly equal. I think Anderson has a lot of qualities. If not, he's getting a little bit better than Rask because of the age. But at the end of the day, they have a tough-built team, does Boston. It doesn't matter if you play them at home or the road. Boston plays that game, and they're a different team than Tampa is. Dane, I'll go back to you here, then go over to Justin. Does it matter to have the home ice advantage in the playoffs in the first round?
I would say, overall, it doesn't matter as much. I think in the last couple of years in the playoffs, I think it was 2 years ago, the home and away record was there was almost more away wins in the playoffs than there was. And you're like, oh, well, maybe home ice doesn't matter as much. But when you're talking about the Toronto Maple Leafs, going to the TD Garden, I mean, other than Game 5 in Boston is the only one they can ever seem to win. I mean, I want home ice. I don't care what you say, even if, their away record speaks for itself right now. But I think when it comes playoff time, I think you're just, a young hockey team would just feel more comfortable playing at home. And, I mean, it seems like it's destiny, Boston, Toronto once again, right? So I think they need to get whatever kind of advantage they can possibly get against Boston. And speaking back towards the trade deadline, I mean, if Boston makes a move, I think you have to if you're Toronto, because if you evaluate your team right now, are you really better than Boston? Maybe you're just as good as the Bruins. You're not better than Tampa. Tampa, for some reason, still has cap space to make moves, and they're in the market to make another big trade. I don't understand. But great signings by Steve Yzerman. Look at Kucherov. That contract's nuts. So, I foresee Boston and Tampa making moves, and I think that's just going to force Toronto's hand, and they're going to have to make moves. Hopefully, it's the right move. But go to a young hockey team. I know there's pressure in Toronto for them to at least win the first round of the playoffs, and they have a tough road. But I mean, stick to the plan. Shanny's plan there. Don't start selling just so you can go to the second round of the playoffs and potentially lose to Tampa. you got to look at the long run and things. So, but yeah, home ice would be very beneficial to Toronto.
Hike, as we sit here as Tampa goes up 1-0 a bit midway through the first period on the power play. Top power play percentage of the league does Tampa have. And you look on the ice for the Toronto Maple Leafs, you have Zaitsev and Ron Hainsey on the point. Obviously, Babcock changed up the pairings out there. Zaitsev looked a little bit confused out there as well, again, but we're not going to point out players here anymore because I don't think that's good for any kind of sports talk. But your reaction on home ice advantage, is that a thing for Toronto? Is that necessary even against Boston or Tampa? Because you're not catching Tampa. I don't. Tampa's going to get that first round ice. So, in the first round, if you're playing Boston, important to have.
I mean, it can't hurt to change it up, I guess. But to be completely honest, if you're just looking at the two teams, Toronto home ice isn't going to help. It's not. It really isn't. Boston's got one crazy line, and then they roll 3 lines of terrifying. What I'm going to say is the catchword of January in hockey right now is heavy. You know, they roll 3 heavy lines, and they just run you into the fucking ground. Like, that's what they do. You play up against their meat grinder, and then they put the Pasternak line out there, and he makes you look like an asshole, and it's over. That's how Boston wins games. Well, that's just it. I was looking through my DraftKings the other night, and it's like, well, you know, I might as well take Pasternak. That should win me some money. It's bad to say, but there's just certain teams that are in the Leafs' head, and the only way the Leafs are going to beat Boston is by trying to play Boston's game. You got to be rough, tumble, physical, and the Leafs just aren't built like that right now. So I don't know that home ice is going to be an advantage. But like I said, it can't hurt to be different, so we'll try it out. Why not?
Getting that home ice is definitely important because it changes up the series. Each time they play Boston, they've been down, or they've had to play Game 7 in Boston, Game 1 in Boston. Yeah, it's so it's good to see it change up. I think it's important for that first round, but I'm confident in their road skills this year too. So it'll be interesting to see at the end of the day how that all turns out. Now, Toronto's been on a little bit of a slide. Anderson gets back to being healthy. You know, the Leafs are still second in their division right now after Boston losing to Philadelphia yesterday, which really helped. But the division's getting tight, man. You have Montreal, who's up there. I believe that's in a wild card spot. And then you have Buffalo, who's just hovering outside the wild card spot, if I remember looking at today. So it's getting tight. The Leafs have to smarten up and keep up the pressure that they have and maintain that second place in the division.
Good thing the All-Star break's coming up.
Yes, very good. And as Toronto scores and even up the game 1-1 here, or shortly after Tampa just scored.
Was he in the dream, or was it
So, fellas, we're going to go to break. Justin, you and I are going to cheers to them tying that goal there. When we come back, myself, you, and Dane are going to be talking about the trade deadline, how big of a year it's going to be, players that are out there. We're going to elaborate more from the topic from last week. We're talking about the World Cup. And people are wondering why I didn't jump into the Gardiner thing here. I'm actually going to save that for the next part because it's not just about the Leafs. I want to bring that into a whole wide perspective about how you should boo players and just treatment as a player, how that affects you in terms of that's why we're not bringing up all the Leafs topics just because anybody wants to know. And we still have to do our multiple choice segment along with more sports talk, even if we can jump into some baseball as well before we conclude tonight's show. Dane, Hanchrow, Justin Hykel, and David McCaig live from Northern Superior Brewing Company. Make sure you like our Facebook page. As Brad said last week, or on the Tuesday edition, and as I've been posting on Facebook, and you can ask Dane and Justin right now too, the prize that we have is a pretty decently valued prize. All you got to do is hit like and do a Facebook live draw, chime into it. Your name gets drawn. You win a fabulous prize courtesy of the Game Sports Show and its sponsors. What do you think, Justin? You get a like and you get a prize.
I mean, I think it's an all right deal. I don't really see how you lose, and we really don't spam anyone with a whole lot of stuff.
We never have.
No, we're not those arseholes.
Nope.
We're legit. Except I don't even know what the prize is.
I didn't share it with you guys. Only Brad knows. It's an as two basis. And our sponsors know. And I can't say what it is here on air, but I'll tell you guys when we get off air. Just a little teaser. The Game Sports Show, Twin Cities only, local, regional, and national sports show. Wow, easy for me to say, fellas. We'll come back, more sports talk here on The Game.
The Game Sports Show is pleased to shout out a partner, additional home, and sponsor to Northern Superior Brewing Company, located on 50 Pym Street in Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario. Northern Superior Brewing Company having a strong presence locally with many beers to offer. With much involvement in the community of Sault Ste. Marie, Northern has a sport and friendly-like atmosphere within its tap room, and during the summer months, it is a must to visit Pier 55 to enjoy some delicious food, amazing view of the water, and view of the Bush Pulling Museum, right on the cusp of the Hub Trail, and of course, all of that down with a delicious brew from Northern Superior. Northern Superior Brewing Company. It's a Northern thing.
The Game Sports Show would like to thank an additional sponsor and special edition home to the game, Silver Creek Golf Course, located on 104 Bellow Lake Road, Garden River, Ontario. And also shout out thank you to Silver Creek GM Jamie Henderson. Silver Creek Golf Course has many specials to offer for 18 holes, 9 holes, and even Twilight Deal specials. It does not matter what your level of golf game is, it is a must to enjoy the scenic course, memorable experiences that Silver Golf Course offers. Silver Creek also offers a Thursday wing night for you to enjoy food after a stellar time on the course. You can book your tee time by phone or online at golfsilvercreek.com. Silver Creek Golf Course, where all are welcome to play.
The Game Sports Show would like to thank an additional sponsor and additional home to the Game Sports Show, Sports Center Bar and Grill. Sports Center Bar and Grill, located on 624 Wellington Street West, Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario. Sports Center rated top sports bar for the second year in a row. At Sports Center, enjoy their famous 75-cent wing night along with delicious Molson products on tap, along with a great atmosphere and other great food options available as well. Sports Center Bar and Grill, the Sioux's best sports bar.
Hi, this is Joe Bowen, and you're listening to the Game Sports Show from Sault Ste. Marie.
Welcome back to the Game Sports Show, the Twin Sault's only local regional national sports show. Dave McCaig alongside Dane Hanchrow, Justin Hykel, live from Northern Superior Brewing Company. It's a Northern thing here at Northern Superior. A lot of delicious beer. As I sit here having the red maple product. Dane had the 55. Justin had the red maple as well.
You guys mixed up. I had the 55. I think Dane had the red maple. I was unaware that red maple was back on tap, and now I am.
That's right. And they have a lot of variety of beers. You can come by the tap room. Fantastic. Red maple is absolutely delicious, and the tap room's great to be involved with here. No, nice little atmosphere in here. You got the big screen projector that's right behind us here as we record the Game Sports Show. Leaf games on. Tampa Bay against Toronto. Where else is this nice and chill? You come here after work. You come here and enjoy some really affordable and delicious beer from Northern Superior Brewing Company.
Taste your way through the menu, see what you like, take some home. It's not really not a bad setup here.
Good prices for the crowlers as well. You know, so they have a lot of good deals here with Northern Superior Brewing Company. And as I said before we went to break, don't hesitate to like our Facebook page. Our sponsors are being very courteous, along with the Game Sports Shows being very courteous to the winner, that all you have to do is like the Facebook page and you get put into a draw that's going to happen at the end of January for the prizes that we have. I will give away something. It is a prize basket with a lot of goods that is valued well over, can't tell you. That should give you a little bit of a hint.
Well over some dollars.
A lot of money. Let's just say it that way. Fellas, let's continue our sports show here opposed to our prize giveaway talk that we know that we are legit at. Trade deadline. Big trade here. Players that are around the realm being named. Matt Zuccarello, Kasperi Kapanen, Alex Pietrangelo, Brassard, Wayne Simmons, Dougie Hamilton, Vladimir Tarasenko, which I got my eye on, boy, let me tell you. Some other names, Jared Spurgeon. I can go with that name as well. I might even go to the realm of Artemi Panarin as well. Sergei Bobrovsky, potentially. There's a lot of names that are out there in terms of maybe making deals. Hey, you might even, if you're a GM and you want an offensive defenseman, you might be able to pry Jake Gardiner for the Maple Leafs as well. A lot of players that are available in this trade deadline talk here. I want to go around the table is how I'm going to set it up, and I'll start before I go to Justin and to Dane about players that stick out your eye and where you can even think they would go as a potential destination. And before the trade deadline, the Game Sports Show will give you the up-to-date reaction and updated news each week about the trade deadline as we near it. The name that I want to talk about the most here is surprisingly Wayne Simmons and Vladimir Tarasenko, the two names that I want to talk about. I think Wayne Simmons has a very affordable cap hit at 3.9, and that's what makes it very dangerous for the Tampa Bay Lightning to sign him and trade for him. Sorry, I think that makes a lot of sense for Wayne Simmons to go to Tampa Bay, that affordable cap hit, because for some reason, as Dane attested to before we went to break, Tampa Bay still has money somewhere. I don't know what mafia they're working with, but they definitely got money.
Tampa Bay is like that one friend you have on Instagram where you're looking at their page or their posts all the time. And you're like, how do they do this? Like, do they work?
How do they afford this? Yeah.
What is going on here? Like,
How do they travel to Greece and Europe all the time?
do they live some sort of life that I've been totally oblivious to this entire time, or what's the deal?
They have a clone.
You know what I mean, though, right? Like,
There's a couple names that are already popping into my head right now.
Steve's in Greece again. How did that happen?
He's in Greece. How did he get the time off work? He's in Greece last month. He was in Italy. The night before that, he was in Australia.
And it's like, I go to the East End, and it's like, fuck. Look at the gas. I'm going back to the West End. In all seriousness, no, that's just like it's nonsense how they have the salary cap still, like the space.
And they're front runners with Wayne Simmons.
Well, and really, like, who couldn't use a good power forward?
They would love that. Imagine him with Braden Point on that second line would really even just solidify. They don't need defense or goalie. I'm sure they'd like to upgrade that offense a little bit. And I'm sure Philly, if you want to get a little trade in there, they got a couple prospects. They got Matthew Joseph there. They had a couple names there they can probably pry to get. And Tampa Bay is dangerous. Very dangerous as I tighten up my suit here like James Bond 007. I'm going to go to the next name that I really want to talk about. Vladimir Tarasenko. I think he's Edmonton Oilers bound. Dane's going to sit here, look at me and go, They get a little excited like my dog does when I say I want to get a treat. Makes sense because McDavid's playmaking abilities, and the guy's already shown he has improved his shot, did Connor McDavid. But imagine putting Vladimir Tarasenko with McDavid on that line. McDavid would be feeding the puck to Vladimir all day. Vladimir would go from a 40-goal scorer to a 55-goal scorer in a matter of a season, let alone a matter of a couple months. Vladimir just makes sense. Edmonton has the picks, has the assets. They're hovering over near a playoff spot somehow after their atrociousness of the last couple months, but the Anaheim Ducks haven't been any better. Okay, so teams that have only been ahead of them and really excelling is Calgary and Las Vegas are the two teams that are really excelling. So, and obviously San Jose Sharks for another team who've been really flourishing. So catching those three teams I don't think is reasonable for the Edmonton Oilers, but getting a wild card spot I think is reachable. Colorado has been fantastic. Anaheim hasn't been. They just made a minor league trade with getting Del Zotto and moved out Luke Shen. We all know who Luke Shen is. Here on the boat, he's still around. You know, some trades are already starting to dwindle down. So Vladimir, I think all it would take for the Edmonton Oilers is I think you'd have to give up first. 100% is on that list. I think you do have to either give up Yamamoto, sorry if I butchered the last name, Dane, or Jesse Puljujarvi. I think that is something you get Puljujarvi a first, another prospect, potentially a second, if you're going to lock him up long term. I think you go in that deep, and I think Chiarelli would pay a lot to get Tarasenko. We've already shown what he would pay to get Adam Larsson, so I'm very, very curious to see what he would pay to get Vladimir Tarasenko. But I think a team that's a competitor in the playoffs might look at that. I think Las Vegas might look at Vladimir Tarasenko potentially. I also think that the San Jose Sharks might look at Vladimir Tarasenko as well. But the most reasonable option that could put a team into the playoffs and help them in the long run is the Edmonton Oilers. But those are my two names, fellas. It's a lot of talking from me. Justin, I'm going to go to you next. Then we'll go to Dane to get his names that he wants to pick out and some reaction about the potential big trade here as this 2019 trade deadline.
I mean, I just kind of want to touch on your Tarasenko thing a little bit. I've kind of got this oddball theory only because I've been watching a lot of late games. I really like the Vancouver Canucks. It's really hard for me to like say that out loud, but they're fun to watch. Like last night's game against Edmonton, that was fantastic hockey. Like that was one of the best games I've watched all year. Now,
how about Koskinen in the shootout?
Coming
over. We got the topic. We'll get to that.
I'm just tossing it out there.
So you think Vancouver for Vladimir Tarasenko?
Why not? Vancouver's 1 point out of the wild card spot right now.
They're almost like the Edmonton Oilers.
And they're only going to get healthier.
And they're young. Elias Pettersson when he's healthy too. Yeah.
And they're back. Like I thought, Tanev had a pretty hard matchup last night against McDavid. And he did pretty good. Branson, they've got some sandpaper. They've got some depth down the middle. They got some experience on the wing. You bring in just a guy like that who's a pure scorer. Why not? See what happens. I mean, doesn't make Oilers fans happy to hear that. But I think that's an interesting one.
Now, Tanev, that's a defenseman right there. Jubas, take note.
I mean, I would kill to get Branson out of. But anyways, I mean, we'll segue into who I'm thinking is kind of interesting right now. A name I heard bounced around the last 2-3 weekends now, and you're probably going to cringe when I say this out loud. But it attests to the Leafs need to get tougher segment. Cronwall. That's
going the veteran route. The guy, can he even walk still?
He's been through the battle.
Yeah.
The coach knows him. And I mean, really, Matthew's brain can attest to he's still going to put you into the boards and finish you. Like that, why not?
Is that a guy for Gardiner, you're saying?
I'm not.
Is that the guy for Gardiner?
I think so.
To play with, anyway.
Nothing settles your back end down like having an enforcer hanging out at the blue line. I don't know. That's
affordable. You could still get him and make
that's the thing. Like, he's not ridiculously expensive, and it's a relatively cheap experiment if it doesn't work. But what's his name out of Columbus is my other one. There is it. Josh Anderson.
Josh Anderson.
I keep messing up his name, but I really do think that Toronto's missing that power forward element just since Van Riemsdyk left. I know I kind of hijacked the segment into what Toronto needs in the trade deadline. But there's just names that are interesting. I mean, Josh Anderson for anyone who isn't looking for the Tom Wilson model right now. And Columbus is, one trade away from either rebuilding the team or making a playoff run. With Panarin right there. The Bobrovsky's, he's good. He's not good. He's good. So I think he's one to watch, especially for a goaltender needy team. Bobrovsky and the Oilers probably wouldn't be terrible, but
that's another good thing. If the Oilers move, I wonder if you sacrifice moving Koskinen for Bobrovsky. I wonder if you think of Koskinen in a pick, if you do just go all in, because if Chiarelli goes the Alex Anthopoulos route, pulling a baseball reference to try to get into the playoffs. But Justin, I don't want to hijack your point. Are you done there?
I was kind of going sideways on that one anyway, so we'll tee up Dane now and let's see what he's got for picks.
Well, he's got our topics to kind of probably react on, especially my Koskinen point. I think he's got his arms crossed for a reason there. But Dane, reaction on our topics first if you feel like it. If not, you are more than welcome to jump to your names that stick out to you and where they might go and the deadline.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you're going to trade Koskinen or even try to get Bobrovsky. I think that's a rental move. I think Bobrovsky wants to get a bunch of money, and he's already stated that he's probably hitting out the free agent market. What do you mean? What do you mean about that? Like,
Talbot?
I don't think we have a backup in place. I think the NHL is a league that has a lot of teams that have a 1A, 1B kind of system going and have been successful with it. I mean, as good as Koskinen's played, he had a little bit of a slump there for a while. I think it's still good to have Cam Talbot as a backup, and he's had, very up and down kind of season. But yeah, going back to like the Tarasenko thing, I think Edmonton's in a better position than Vancouver to make a deal for that. I mean, if they can offer Puljujärvi in a first, is Vancouver going to give them Quinn Hughes in a first? I'm pretty big on Quinn Hughes after watching him play in the World Juniors this year. I thought he was very, very, very good. And I don't think Vancouver is dying to make the playoffs this year. I think if they make the playoffs this year, then perfect, right? First round exit, that's just the team's growing. But I don't think because, they're 1 or 2 points out of a playoff spot right now that, you sell a bunch of guys just for a short-term success. So I think Vancouver is probably not going to be making any moves, maybe mostly likely to be sellers at the deadline. Like, they're in an awkward position with Edler and a couple guys like Gudbranson. Like, do you sell them for a couple more draft picks? Like, I mean, Vancouver's loaded with good prospects. Like, what I'm looking for if I'm Vancouver is good young guys that can step into your lineup right away, not waiting a couple more years for guys, because Vancouver's going to be a pretty hell of a hockey team in, the next couple years. But yeah, I don't have a whole lot to say about where guys I think are going to go, this and that. I just think it's going to be a really big trade deadline due to the fact that I think a lot of teams have expressed the fact that guys are available, or at least openly taking calls. And a lot of good powerhouse teams like Boston and Tampa have stated, like, we are in, like, we're in a buyer, like, we're buyers right now. Like, we're going to go out there and try to make our team better. And I mean, like, a team like Tampa, they've been so close. And Steve Yzerman should be the GM of the best, of the world, with what he's done and the available moves that Tampa can and will probably make at the deadline sets themselves up.
Simmons just makes sense.
I think Wayne Simmons is more of a Boston guy, the way that he plays. I think he has that two-way game. He's hard on the puck. He's fast. He has skill. He's just a good all-around player. I think it's his time's up in Philadelphia. I think he just needs a change of scenery. But I think it's going to be a pretty big trade deadline. And like I said, it only takes that one team to make that big trade 2-3 weeks before the trade deadline, and then I don't think the trade deadline that day itself is going to be that crazy. I think a lot of teams are analyzing what they have right now, and you look at teams like Chicago and LA that were so relevant for so long, and you see this transition in the NHL where teams that weren't good for a really long time are now good. So these guys like LA and Chicago that have even St. Louis and even Minnesota, who's not kind of going downhill a little bit, have all these guys plus 30 that have these big contracts, and they couldn't win with them, they can't win with them now, and they're not going to win with them. They need new young blood. So I see a lot of those kind of teams making or trading some of their older valuable assets. But I think it's going to be a batshit crazy trade deadline this year, and I'm excited for it, especially for Canadian teams.
Canadian teams are going to be buying a lot in this trade deadline. Fellas, no World Cup. Damn it. Didn't you enjoy watching the North American team? McDavid, Matthews, Riley, McKinnon, John Gibson. The NHL can't get their fucking shit together. And the reason why I asked may I, because I like to look at Justin and say it, because I don't get too carried away with my terminology, how upset I get about certain things, especially when it comes to the certain decisions that are made. But again, the Olympics have been taken away from the fans. Russia's benefited from this, winning their gold medal. You look at Canada, no offense to the players that were there, but, there's a lot of guys that could have been there over them from the National Hockey League, and it would have been very exciting. Imagine having Connor McDavid on the same team as Sidney Crosby and Nathan McKinnon on that team, and just the Olympic team that we would have been able to put together. So I don't think this World Cup's a good idea to pull away, and I think it is going to lead to potential lockout. I think players are going to say they're going to be upset with this. It has to be that they want to go play. Now, what they don't understand is that when they're owned by a team, and yes, they're owned by a team when they sign a contract, that you're going to go get hurt potentially. You might have a career-ending injury, never know, or you might break something and makes you miss a certain part of the year. No one would want Connor McDavid to miss the first 4 months of a season. Imagine Edmonton there. Oh my goodness! Imagine Toronto being without. Well, I shouldn't say Matthews because we're out of Matthews for 4 to 6 weeks. But if you're missing a lot of, like Frederik Andersen, you miss a goalie who is playing in the World Cup, something like that, injuries are scare. But World Cup of hockey is not going to be happening in 2020. Does this upset you? Dane first.
I think it's the collective bargaining agreement and the discussions. I think it's just not enough time and an uncertainty with how things are going to work out. I think the players and the owners and the league, the last thing they want is another lockout with how successful, financially the NHL is doing. And the players are always the ones that get the bad rap, they want the money, this is why it's happening. It goes both ways, the owners don't want to pay them that much money. And I get that with some owners, with the revenue sharing that has to go on. There's teams like the Leafs that are, supporting, the bottom 7 teams or, revenue-wise in the league to keep them afloat, because it's an overall kind of thing within the NHL. I think there still will be a World Cup. It just might be delayed by a year or two. I think they just kind of ran out of time. But it looks like the players are going to the next Olympics. I think that's a real big deal for the NHL and the Olympics to have them back there. That's their big, the gold medal hockey games, the last event of the whole Olympics. That's the big thing, right? So, and I don't know if their viewings went down when the NHLers weren't there. I did keep up. I watched the finals. I wasn't following Canada every game, but I am disappointed there's no World Cup again. I mean, I don't know how the format would go. I don't know if there would be a Team Europe and Team North America again like they had before. But I like the idea of it when it happened. I'm not heartbroken that it's not happening. I think they need to figure out and find a agreement on the new collective bargaining agreement, because the last thing, you know what, I can go without a World Cup, but the last thing I want is another lockout. So,
And then players, it might lead to that. You know what I mean? It might lead to that. But Justin, that isn't it is kind of part of the topic, so you can get into that. But your frustrations or satisfactions. I think I made up a word there. Yeah, I made up a word. Fine. World Cup Hockey 2020.
We're just going to disregard that whole little bit there. No, that's not a word. It was a thing that happened, but it was not a word. No, but as far as the World Cup hockey goes, I'm not really heartbroken about it, because I think that's kind of the trade to get the Olympics back. Players aren't going to do both. Players want to play in the Olympics. I think the issue there is that the owners don't want to pay for the players to play in the Olympics. So I think this is a bargaining point for the NHL and the IOC to say you want our players, because you obviously saw a ratings drop and a revenue drop because you didn't have our players there. Now you're going to have to pay their insurance or their travel or whatever, because essentially they are shutting down their business for 2 weeks.
A little break. It's almost like, I guess it's not like the All-Star break.
Yeah, it's not quite the same. As far as losing the World Cup goes, whatever. I don't really think it's a big deal. I think that was more of a revenue generator for the league. I mean, the fact that we went 2 months with World Cup advertisements on everything, chip bags, pop cans, beer cans, everything for 2 months. It was a revenue grab for the NHL and Hockey Canada and everything else. So, and the players have to look at that too, as far as the negotiation goes, and see where's our cut of that revenue from our faces being on these pop cans and everything else. Like, we want to play in the Olympics, or if you want to market us like that, we want a bigger cut of the pie. Yeah. And in the grand scheme of things, it's probably cheaper and better in the owners and the NHL's interest to just let them go to the Olympics.
I mean, the NHL makes money off the World Cup too, right? And so do the players.
They make money.
Oh yeah, 100%. It's an NHL-run tournament. So I'm not heartbroken about it. I think that's a win for the players, and I think it's a step in the right direction to having the players be able to play in the Olympics again.
Just to kind of conclude the point, I want to see the boys back in the Olympics. And that's all I'll say. Listeners, don't hesitate to comment below. Dave McCaig alongside Dane, Hanchrow, Justin Hykel, and Northern Superior Brewing Company and staff here with the Twin Sault's only local regional national sports show. I want to get into a couple more topics, fellas, before we go to break. And when we come back, we'll talk about the multiple choice segment that we have. And we'll dive into a little bit of baseball news before we conclude tonight's show. 2 points before we go to break. The first one, Jerome McGinley. Have his number retired against the Minnesota Wild, and it'll be on March 2nd that he'll have number 12 retired in Calgary. And Jerome McGinley, when he was in Calgary, he ended up leaving, trying to go win a cup in Pittsburgh, didn't happen. Tried to go win a cup in Boston, didn't happen. He signed with Colorado after their big season when the rookies came up, didn't win a cup there. He didn't end up winning a cup with the Los Angeles Kings. That is one of the guys that upsets me the most that doesn't have a Stanley Cup. Heart and soul guy. He was a part of Sidney Crosby's golden goal. He was on the ice for that, if everyone remembers that. Jerome McGinley, he passed in the puck. He did. As the puck squeaked through Ryan Miller. Jerome McGinley got his number retired. Just a quick little tidbit reaction on how deserving this is, Dane.
Oh, well, very deserving. I mean, it's the Calgary Flames, not my favorite team, but I can have respect for Jerome McGinley and what he's done for that city and just the way he played. And he was also close to bringing a second Stanley Cup to Calgary when they played against Tampa Bay back in the day. But, yeah, I love Jerome McGinley's game. Goal scorer, didn't take shit from anybody on the ice. One of the few guys who could put 100 points up in the season but could probably beat the shit out of most of the guys in the league. Wish he was an Edmonton Oiler. Love the guy. Enjoyed watching him play in the battle. He is from Edmonton, yeah. So, yeah, kudos to him and a great career. It's unfortunate that he couldn't get that Stanley Cup ring, but he has a couple Olympic gold medals. So, I I feel like he can still reflect on his career and be pretty overall happy with that. But yeah, he did miss out on that one beautiful trophy that he, unfortunately didn't get.
He did lose to Tampa Bay that time. Of my favorite hockey player of all time, Vinny Lecavalier, was there in Tampa Bay. Won with St. Louis, Richards, and also Dave Andrechuk in 2004. It was 2004. Justin, just a little quick thing about Joe McGinley before to our last topic before we go to break.
I mean, I think it's awesome. They're going to retire his number. And I mean, really, he's, as far as I'm concerned, probably one of the best Flames of all time, if not the best Flame of all time. I mean, there's some big names on that list: Lanny McDonald, Andrechuk. But I mean, like, I don't think there's any more of a beloved player in the city of Calgary than Jerome McGinley. I mean, I don't even think those fans, batted an eye when he was playing for other teams. He was always going to come back. He was always going to be a Flame. And I think it's just the right ending. It's a nice way to see that story go out.
Couldn't agree more. Jerome McGinley was one of my favorite hockey players of all time, and the guy was not scared of anything. He was a true leader. Would have loved to see him actually play in the blue and white in Toronto. Not that he would have won a Stanley Cup there, but maybe would have made our run in 2002 against the Carolina Hurricanes, losing the conference final, maybe a little bit different. But Jerome McGinley was at the peak of his career there. He's it wasn't exactly available at that current time. He was definitely a leader in Calgary. He's one of the captains of Canada, in my opinion, next to Stevie Y. Next to, thinking at the top of my head here, if you want to, Wayne Gretzky, Joe Sakic. Yes, a lot of those guys. A lot of good leaders and a lot of good Canadian hockey players in those days for sure. Fellas, this quick tidbit here. I can't forget to say Nino Niederreiter was traded today from the Minnesota Wild, the Carolina Hurricanes, for Victor Rask. We're not going to fully dive into that trade, but that was a trade along with the Delzato Shen trade that occurred within the last 24 to 48 hours. I think that's a trade that was a steal for the Carolina Hurricanes, to be honest. Nino Niederreiter's a big forward, big presence. Will definitely work well with Sebastian Aho and the boys there in Carolina who continue to ascend in Carolina. Comment below what you think about the trade, who you think won the trade. Victor Rask, no disrespect, but slight advantage to Carolina there. Last topic before we go to break, Jake Gardiner gets booed, fellas. Now, this wasn't a part of our leave topic for the purpose of just respect overall how you think this will play out, not only on Gardiner, but how you would feel if you were Jake Gardiner. And do the fans have a right to do this? Brad and I talked about this on the Icebreaker shows, as I alluded to a couple times. Brad's reaction was interesting, how he brought up the statistics, how Zaitsev actually has the worst takeaway on the team ratio comparison to giveaways, minus 42, which is one of the worst in the National Hockey League, may I add. But we won't get into that. It's a whole other topic that we can maybe chime in on the Leafs talk next week here on Northern Superior Brewing edition of the Game Sports Show. Gardiner getting booed. Dane, what do you do when you're him? How do you feel when you're Jake? And are the fans classless for doing it? I'm going to ask you a different question, Justin.
Well, obviously you can't speak for all of Leafs Nation. There is that hate for Jake Gardiner. And the way I look at it, I feel like the mistakes he makes on the ice are big mistakes, but he doesn't make as many little consistent mistakes as other players on the team, but it just visually it looks bad. I feel like for the player Jake Gardiner is and what he does, he's very good for the role that he's in. I mean, it's not like the whole Toronto Maple Leafs team's firing all cylinders right now, and I think just Leafs Nation needs a punching bag. And I mean, no matter how bad a guy's playing, I feel like it's not going to benefit you if you're booing guys that are on your own team. I mean, I don't think like the effort has ever been a thing for Jake Gardiner. I just think the guy takes really big risks on the back end, and some of those risks he makes turns into goals for the Maple Leafs, and then sometimes they don't. I mean, you look at the way the league's going, it's a fast, turnover rush kind of league right now, and I think a guy like that's more valuable than you think. I mean, goal scoring's gone up in the NHL, that shut-down defensive Western Conference style that you seen a couple years ago, cycling the puck down low and the dump and chase. Like, it's a different game right now. So, I mean, be careful what you wish for, Toronto. I mean, I look at Justin Schultz when he was in Edmonton and the flack that he got for his poor play. And he went to Pittsburgh and became a two-time Stanley Cup champion and had a really, really good year last year with almost 60 points. So, I mean, I feel like teams that are going to sign Jake Gardiner next year know what they're going to get with him. I mean, he's not going to be a shutdown defenseman. He's never been that kind of guy. I'm pretty sure he even came to the league as a forward, if I'm not mistaken. So I think he gets a worse rap than he actually deserves. But I mean, the pressure cooker in Toronto with from the media and the fans, some people can handle that pressure and some people can't. And I mean, we'll see how Jake Gardiner performs after that game. We've been kind of briefly watching him tonight. Haven't really seen him do too much, but I mean, like I said, it was not everybody in the crowd, but I think it's a little bit disappointing, and I don't agree that you should be booing your own guys. So I mean, Edmonton, Lucic hasn't scored in 50 games until the other night, and Edmonton guys were cheering for him when he got the puck because they just want the guy to score. So. Yeah, so I don't know. Yeah, it's an unfortunate thing. I think Toronto's doing pretty good this year, and they had a couple bad games, and I don't think that justifies booing one of your longest-serving, players on your team. So,
Justin, go to you before I wrap up the topic before we go to break.
I mean,
Cutting you off. Cut me off. I said I'd give you a different question. Okay, I can't change the realm on that. Producer goes, give me the beep. He's like, zzz. He gave me the shot collar. I'm going to say this, though. Here's how I'm going to change the question. React to what Dane said in terms of that question, so you can say what you can say there. Statement, or react to Dane's statement, question, whatever you want to say. But in terms of Jake Gardiner, do you agree that the fans had a right to boo based on his performance? And you, being a Toronto Maple Leaf fan, are you pleased with his performance? Or do you sit on the couch as the other Leaf fans right there saying that, you know what, it's not his fault?
I really agree with what Dane said. I mean, I don't want to dwell too much on it because we kind of got to get rolling here. But if Jake Gardiner's not on your team, the Toronto Maple Leafs are a much worse team without him. And I honestly feel the last time there was this much hate or this much critique towards Jake Gardiner's game from all these experts that pop out of the woodwork was 8 months ago against Boston in Game 7.
Gardiner Expressway.
No one nitpick about all the other issues. No one nitpicked about any of that because Gardiner's the one out there. Sometimes when you make big plays, you make big mistakes. It happens. But the only way you become a big playmaker is by taking chances. And he's taken a lot more chances than some of the other names on the roster. So you got to give him credit for doing that. And maybe he's trying to lead by example, get some people fired up. He's going out there throwing his balls on the line, getting killed by the media. Maybe some of these other guys should start taking chances and doing stuff like that too, using their wheels. He's got his 30-year-old old-ass legs out there now, and he's still the second or top 5 fastest guy on the team. But, going forward, as far as the fans booing him, I would have 100% booed too. That's just the way sports are. That's what makes it fun to go to a live game. You get into the game. It's not like people were throwing shit at him. It's not like, there's probably a bunch of lunatics on Instagram telling him to go kill himself, but you got to remember, it's some sort of 600-pound maniac who's playing World of Warcraft, so
that's the whole thing.
You got to check yourself, I guess. I don't know. That's okay. Fortnite, is that the thing now? Well, but I don't know.
World of Warcraft,
I don't know. That's little kids seem to play Fortnite, and I don't see any 600-pound little kids. So, but I don't really have an issue with the booing. He gets paid millions of dollars to play hockey. If you don't have thick enough skin to take a couple boos, if anything, it should be motivating. That's.
This gives me more incentive just to reach out and confirm a date to get him on the show. I did feel bad for him when he got booed. I could not imagine being in that show you get. But if I was him...
bad for him. You were this lunatic in April. You were going to go down there and beat him to death and in your head. And then he
didn't say that, but yeah, it might.
And then he'd open his door and turn you into a sandwich.
Yummy. What kind of sandwich?
Crush you into the ground.
You know what? Here's the thing. I felt bad for him not. You're right. I'm very hypocritical of his play very critical of his play because he does not make those smart decisions out there. But again, in terms of booing, I do feel from on that end. But if I was him, I'd be sitting there going, "Fuck them. I'm gonna fucking prove them wrong." I'm not resigning here this year. I'm going to make them miss me. That's the kind of determination that we want him to have and that he needs to have. Because the true Jake Gardiner that I saw was in 2013 against the Boston Bruins in playoffs, where the only player I was chirping on Toronto that time, and Dane can attest to this, was Cody Franzen. That was the only player that I was chirping on Toronto that time. Then I started chirping Matt Fratton because he missed on a breakaway. That was the whole turning point of that hockey game. But we won't jump into 2013. I'm already seeing those in my nightmares. Jake Gardiner getting booed, I think is good for his game right now. To really be honest, look at the dark end of it. To look on a dark end of it, it will help his game.
I think it's good for the whole team, and I honestly just think he's a whipping boy right now for the entire roster. He's got the balls to try and do this stuff, get people going, and he's the one who's shouldering most of the booing in the public right now. I mean, he's been the one you've seen in front of the cameras. Him, Morgan Riley, Tavares, those guys have been in front of the cameras facing the media day in, day out. Marleau doesn't need to face the media. He's not there to be the face for the team. He's there to be a complimentary player to help these young guys mature into professional athletes. That's what he's there for. These players like, the age group like Tavares, the Kadris, the Jake Gardiners, to the lesser extent Morgan Riley, because he's still, I think, 24. Those guys are there to kind of lead, shoulder some of the brunt for this team, and I don't have an issue with Jake Gardiner's mistakes. I really don't. Can he play better? Yes. Can everyone else play better? 100%. If you want to critique defensive play, then critique the rest of the 12 forwards that don't really see the other side of the one blue line. Like, come on.
Number 29, really notably frickin' speaking. Now I'm going to be harder on him than Leaf Sander on Jake. But, fellas, we only got a few time. We can't jump in this topic any further. We got to go to a quick break. When we come back, we only got about 10 to 12 minutes left on the show to talk multiple choice and wrap up the quick updates in the world of baseball before we conclude. Dave McCaig alongside Dane Hanchrow and Justin Hykel here from Northern Superior Brewing Company. It's a northern thing, and it's definitely a northern thing outside, minus 20-something outside. Around that area, it is freezing. It's going to be my record-breaking colds this weekend, apparently. So make sure you're bundling up, having a nice hot cup of Bailey's and coffee, or a skinny caramel mojito from Starbucks. You like that, Justin? What are you talking about? I saw you drinking it the other day. Just take a quick break.
I got a stat.
Dave, Justin, and Dane. Justin, hold that stat for after the break. You're listening to the Twin Saults Only, local, regional, and national sports show. Be right back.
The Game Sports Show is pleased to shout out a partner, additional home, and sponsor to Northern Superior Brewing Company, located on 50 Pym Street in Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario. Northern Superior Brewing Company having a strong presence locally with many beers to offer. With much involvement in the community of Sault Ste. Marie, Northern has a sport and friendly-like atmosphere within its tap room, and during the summer months, it is a must to visit Pier 55 to enjoy some delicious food, amazing view of the water, and view of the Bush Play Museum right on the cusp of the Hub Trail, and of course, all of that down with a delicious brew from Northern Superior. Northern Superior Brewing Company. It's a northern thing.
Get Wicked Catering from the crew at the Wicked Sister.
We like to think of ourselves as foodies. While our favorite foods are paired with a beer tasting at the Wicked Sister, you can now have the same creative menu for your next catered business luncheon, family get-together, wedding, or holiday party. Our white truffle risotto appeals to your gluten-free and vegetarian guests. Add sautéed shrimp or freshly grilled chicken for a pop of protein. Or let us build you a custom menu to suit your needs. From plated events of 15 to buffets for 200, the Wicked Sister will cater your event with tapas, snacks, cravables, or a full sit-down dinner.
The Wicked Sister, where you'll be treated like family, whether you like it or not.
The Game Sports Show would like to thank a list of additional sponsors. North Shore Sports and Auto, new location located on 647 McDonald Avenue, Sault Ste. Marie. A family-owned and operated business with doing business in Sault Ste. Marie for over 10 years. Loads of products available for your enjoyment for all seasons. North Shore Sports and Auto, we understand the importance of quality service and products, and we work hard to ensure that all customers have a positive experience before and after each and every sale. North Shore Sports and Auto, meeting all of your new and pre-owned equipment needs. Special thanks to Salon. The Salon, located on 589 2nd Line East, Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario. Owned and operated by Mike Cuglietta. Book your appointment today at 705-941-9191 or via online at https://thesalonsoo.as.me-. The Salon, making the Soo beautiful, one haircut at a time. As well as a shout out to the Soo Pee Wee Pro Shop. The Soo Pee Wee Pro Shop, located inside the Community First Credit Union Soo Pee Wee Arena.
on 285 Northern Avenue East, Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario. Owned and operated by Jeremy Paquin and ran by Larry Monroe. Superior Pro Shop for over 40 years. Meet all of your skate sharpening, skate repair, and hockey needs. Also to Discover the Canvas. Discover the Canvas, located on 317 Wellington Street West, Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario. A beautiful new renovated building owned and operated by expert artist and Sioux native Katrina Thibodeau. Katrina taking her talents of the ink in Sault Ste. Marie and truly creating the best and most realistic art locally. Call Katrina today at 705-450-8099 or email her at discoverthecanvas@gmail.com to book your tattoo or consultation today.
Hi, it's Craig Hartsburg, former NHL player and NHL coach. Welcome to the Game Sports Show.
Welcome back to the Game Sports Show, the Twin Sault's only local, regional, and national sports show. We're here live at Northern Superior Brewing Company. Dave McCaig alongside Justin Hykel and Dane Hanchrow. You listen to the Game Sports Show on thegamesportshow.com or through the Podbean page or through social media or YouTube. Thank you for joining us here tonight. In the last part of the show, we got a multiple choice segment to jump into and a little bit of baseball update before we wrap up the show. Before I jump into that, Justin had a stat before we went to break. What is the stat, Justin? Shoot.
Leafs are 8-7-2 since the return of William Nylander. Before William Nylander came back, the Leafs were 28-0.
28-0. 20 wins, 8 losses.
Yeah.
What did I say? What did we say on this panel? We have to save time for this. I've said this on this panel that they got to move that guy. No time. Multiple choice segment, fellas. Let's get it started. First question. Hart Trophy candidates in your eyes today. No, it's not me, Dane, or Justin. We're on the Hart Trophy. We are number one in your hearts, though. But Hart Trophy candidates in the National Hockey League. A. Kucherov. B. McDavid. Or Johnny Gaudreau. B and C. And I'm going to slip another one there for D, other. If you have another way to go. Justin, you go first.
I mean, just because I'm a Calgary fan right now, watching some of the later games as well, I've contradicted myself. So many of the West Coast teams in the show so far tonight, but I'm going Johnny Hockey. He's playing crazy right now. Yeah. I mean, he's the spark plug for that entire Calgary team, and he's been fun to watch. And he's a name that otherwise wouldn't be mentioned year after year in this. So, Gaudreau for me.
I'll go next. Who I think it's going to be. I'm going to go the usual route here. He's number 97 on the Edmonton Oilers. Connor McDavid. I'm not going either way. I just think it makes sense, especially if the Oilers somehow squeak into the playoffs with the team that he has. It is all him and a little bit of number 29. And you know what? Even number 93 has been helping out this year. But Connor McDavid, captain, Hart Trophy winner this year, got kind of taken away from him last year as, Taylor Hall, former Oiler, ends up getting it. But I think Connor gets it done this year. Dane.
Yeah, once again, if you look at the definition of what the Hart Trophy is, most valuable to your team, I mean, if Edmonton squeaks into a playoff spot, I think you got to give it to him. But kudos to the way Johnny Gaudreau's been playing, and nothing against Kucherov. I just think he's on a stacked team, and unless he's 25 points in front of the next player in the point race, I think you got to give it to McDavid, especially if the Oilers squeak in the playoffs.
Good answers, boys. McDavid getting the 2-1 winner vote there. Definitely shout out to Johnny Hockey. Good season so far. Calder Trophy. Elias Pettersson. Heiskanen from the Dallas Stars. Or we're going to go with Rasmus Dahlin for the Buffalo Sabres. A, B, and C. I'll start, and I'm going to go, even despite he's been injured, I'm going to go with Elias Pettersson. I think that's an obvious statistics show it based on games played between average of points. His impact on the organization and games when he plays. He's absolutely slick. He's absolutely awesome to watch. Elias Pettersson. Justin.
I mean, based on my comments about Vancouver earlier, I think everyone knows where this is going. I'm also on the Pettersson train. So, that's where that's going.
Danner.
Yeah, I think it has to be Pettersson. I do love Miro Heiskanen. I think that kid is going to be absolutely unreal in the NHL, but I think just the way Peterson's playing right now, above a point per game on a team that didn't have very high expectations this year to be an offensive juggernaut. But I think it has to be Pettersson. I think by a mile.
Pedersen, clear sweep. Western Conference champion. 2 more, fellas. The Winnipeg Jets, Nashville Predators, or the Calgary Flames? I'm going to go first here. Can I spearhead that? I'm going to go with the Winnipeg Jets. Paul Maurice, friend and listener of the show, someone who we have to have on very, very soon, maybe after the All-Star break is kind of what we're playing at. Paul come back on, who's actually one of the coaches in the All-Star game this year. Winnipeg Jets, I think, are going to squeak in. Calgary, kudos to your season so far this year. Hope everything gets arranged with the new arena there, because Calgary is a good fan base, good organization. They're on the up and coming, but Winnipeg this year wins the Western Conference. Dane?
Yeah, I agree with you. Winnipeg.
Simple. Justin?
Yeah, I think it's Jets. They're too good.
3 simple answers, fellas. That's the first. Eastern Final champions. So you're saying the person who's winning the Eastern Conference at this. This is not the Western Conference. You're essentially picking your cup final here, I should say, with the Western Conference champs. Tampa, Toronto, Washington. Dane, not answering this one first.
Yeah, I got Tampa Winnipeg final, just like I did last year.
Justin.
Well, picking with my heart hasn't let me down at all in the last week, so I'm going to take the Leafs.
Simple. I'll back you up, Justin. I'm going to go Toronto as well. I think this is the year the deadline to make some moves. However, playing Tampa in that second round, whoever wins that second round, Tampa or Toronto, spoiler alert, who I think is going to the second round, that is who's going to the Cup final. Let me push that question that way.
Got to play Washington, Pittsburgh,
I'm saying that Toronto or Tampa, whatever team wins that second round, is going on. I'm pulling for the Buds to finally get there, and an all-Canadian final, something we've been wanting here on the Game Sports Show, and where the Game Sports Show would definitely be traveling to Toronto. Let me tell you that right now. Promised to travel to Toronto if that does happen. Fellas, that's been some hockey discussion that we've had. We wrapped up local sports in terms of schedule coming up. We talked a lot of NHL discussion here. I'm going to jump into baseball, and I'm going to wrap this up quickly before we sign off with Dane and Justin here. Going into some updates, the New York Yankees have signed Adam Artavanino from the Colorado Rockies into their bullpen. Bryce Harper, Manny Machado, Dallas Keuchel, and Greg Kimbrell are all still available right now. Still not being signed. Bryce Harper, rumors between going to the Angels, the Phillies. People are starting to put predictions between the Toronto Blue Jays, which has surprised me, and put him in front of Bo Bichette and Vladimir Jr. But Ross Atkins has come out and said physically that he's not going to be making an offer. But we all know how that kind of goes. Manny Machado, after the Yankees have signed a shortstop and another infielder, are they in on Manny Machado still, despite how he's followed them on Instagram? I really think Manny Machado goes to either the White Sox or the Phillies. Just makes total sense. The Jays are staying very quiet. Marcus Stroman, still part of the Blue Jays. A lot of rumors are between Cincinnati Reds. Marcus Stroman liked a tweet from an analyst in the Toronto area that the Reds are interested in Marcus Stroman. He liked the tweet. So interest there, maybe going to the Cincinnati Reds. I don't know if he's trying to stir the pot or what's going on, but San Diego and Cincinnati have been front runners in terms of trying to acquire Marcus Stroman. He did have a struggle year last year. It depends where the Jays are going with this, but it might make sense to move him despite on the return. If you're not going to get a good, valuable young prospect and picks in return, you do not move Marcus Stroman, because he is your ace in Toronto, even over Sanchez when healthy, in my total opinion. Not much more to talk about in terms of baseball, in terms of just more rumors that we will not be jumping into here on the Game Sports Show. Just keeping it short and simple for you for the MLB discussion. Hopefully by next week we might have more of a reaction with Bryce Harper or Manny Machado finally being on a baseball team, even Dallas Keuchel, who is still out there. And if you're the Toronto Blue Jays or Toronto Blue Jays fans, wouldn't you want them to sign another guy to the bullpen or another starter? Come on, Ross Atkins, make a little bit of a splash. Keep the seats in the Rogers Center full this upcoming season. You've been listening to the Twin Sault's only local, regional, and national sports show. I got Justin and Dane here. Going to say bye to the fellas. Justin, we got a Sports Center show to make up this week. Time to be determined. Might be a surprise upload. And also, if you have time, hopefully you can come by Icebreakers on Sunday, depending. We'll see. But we still got 2 more shows this week. Thanks for coming on by here tonight, and we'll talk to you more this week later on.
No problem, man. Good time as always.
Daner, I know you'll be there Sunday at Icebreakers for sure. Thanks for coming on by here tonight, my roommate, and you're still wearing my sweater.
I am. Nice and comfortable, and thanks for inviting me.
Short, simple. Like it, fellas. Quick exits here on the Twin Sault's only local, regional, and national sports show. I want to say thank you to Northern Superior Brewing Company. It's a northern thing. definitely great atmosphere here in the tap room, great staff, and to the overall team of Northern Superior Brewing Company. I want to say thanks to Scott Nason, our board operator here tonight, as always, and to you, the listeners, for making us a part of your night. And until our Sports Center show and our Icebreaker show this weekend, I should say our bonus Sports Center show, as it was canceled on Wednesday. A lot more content this week, so don't miss anything. Follow us on Facebook for our light giveaway for a chance to win a very, very impressive prize. Also, to ensure that you follow us so you don't miss any of the Twin Cities only local, regional, and national sports shows news. This is Dave McCaig signing off. Keep your stick on the ice. Swing your bat, catch your touchdown, drain your threes, and shoot your shots. Booyah.